Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Not 1 cent less for pensioners, an assurance by the Minister of the People and Social Development. Justice being made more accessible to all citizens, including those in the sister island. And the first graduates of the government's Labour Advocates Training Program honored at the Cipriani Labour College. Thank you for joining us to our top story. Not 1 cent less for pensioners. This is the assurance by the People and Social Development Minister, Dr. the Honourable Glenn Ramadasing, who spoke at a press conference at the Ministry's Independence Square Port of Spain office. His statement comes in light of the adjustment in National Insurance, NIS, pension and senior citizens pension, which caused pensioners to express much concern.
What we tried to ensure in the very first place by anticipating the adjustments, and that is not 1 cent less. Not 1 cent less is being received by our senior citizens. The senior citizens pension is administered through the Senior Citizens Pension Act, Chapter 3202.
The statement by the Social Development Minister, who adds that while it may seem to some pensioners they are getting $1,000 less from the government, the difference is being supplemented by the $1,000 increase in the National Insurance Scheme pension. He adds that when this change came into effect, the ministry had foreseen the conflict with the Act's regulations and had met with the Finance Ministry to ensure that the thousands of persons who were supposed to be removed from the pensioners list at the Ministry of Social Development would not experience any change in their net income. Ramadasing admits that the pension adjustment was likely so the government could utilize excess money at the NIS.
This change with regard to the NIB, National Insurance Pensions, was a budget measure. The Ministry of the People and Social Development gave effect to this measure because we realized that it was an innovative way that the Minister of Finance was able to utilize funds that lay idle in the economy to support our senior citizens. The Senior Citizens Pension Act outlines a schedule of payment. There are 79,500 clients of the ministry receiving $3,000 per month and more in some cases.
Dr. Ramadasing says prior to February 1st, 2012, there were persons receiving NIS pension of $2,000 who were also in receipt of a $2,000 senior citizens pension. With effect from June, what is taking place, he says, is as NIS increases to $3,000, they will receive $1,000 from the ministry. Meanwhile, Minister Ramadasing is announcing a new initiative by his ministry, which he says will go a long way in assisting the elderly in society. He says via the Center for Older Persons Empowerment Initiative, elderly persons will access support in various areas, including home repairs and emergency health aid.
We have assembled an action team and we are setting up a action line, 800 COPE, COPE, the Center for Older Persons Empowerment, to look after any emergency request, ambulatory support, food security, and even through the URP social support in terms of infrastructure, roofing, and other issues that our elderly will have.
Vina Barath, News 4.
Justice being made more accessible to all citizens, including those on the sister island. Prime Minister, the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissassa, spoke at the official opening of the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority in Tobago, where she announced that government continues to improve the access to services for all citizens.
Persons in Tobago will now have access to their very own district office of the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority. This from the Honourable Prime Minister, who addressed to those gathered at the official opening of the facility on the Sister Isle. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa says the event represents a landmark accomplishment for the authority and fulfills a long-held desire for the people of Tobago.
The demand for legal aid and advice in Tobago, I'm advised, has been steadily increasing. In 2007 to just about 752 clients, and by 2010 to 1,000. I have not been given the figures for 2011, but there has been an increase. As demand grew for legal assistance, the authority recognized that it needed to raise the bar if it intended to continue fulfilling its obligation to the people of Tobago.
The provision of sound legal advice in a comfortable and confidential environment represents significant strides towards providing results for persons and families in need. The words of the Honorable Prime Minister, who adds that the new facility will go a long way in assisting vulnerable mothers and families in society.
Legal aid clients are at all times amongst the most vulnerable in our nation. And so the authority would serve the needs of women seeking protection from abuse, mothers trying to obtain child support, families facing unlawful evictions or foreclosures which could leave them homeless, senior citizens seeking protection of the state for redress in matters infringing on their legitimate entitlements. And when faced with such dire circumstances, desperation, and extreme need for immediate assistance, these demand a highly responsible and a very compassionate approach.
Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is also pledging government's commitment towards further developing the sister isle, saying for too long has the island been neglected.
Tobago is and always and has been and must be an equal partner in this republic. Tobago's needs are equal to those of Trinidad. Tobago's people are equal to those of Trinidad. And for as long as my government stands, we will see the evidence of an equal partnership with Tobago and not simply hear the strained and empty refrains of the past. Tobago, we have started. I give you my complete assurance we will continue village by village, community by community, town by town. Tobago will receive its just due with my government, not as a favor or handout to you, but rather as your long withheld rights finally delivered. And that is why I'm very happy to make a big deal of development activity in Tobago.
Vina Barth, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us.
Homo sapien, we'll call him Mark. It spends its days trying to attract a mate. Success. What follows is a series of celebratory actions unique to this species. Every Homo sapien has their own way of displaying themselves to attract a female. But things don't go according to plan.
Where the water gone?
No water, no love. Pay your water bill today.
The Water and Sewage Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Water security for every sector. Deliver it. Sustain it.
There's a spark of greatness in each of us. That spark is called personality. Individual gifts and talents provide the fuel to set that spark ablaze. Each child has the right to an education which values their personality and nurtures their talents, while teaching them to be respectful to their parents and their cultures.
Thank you for staying with us. The first graduates of the government's Labour Advocates Training Program were honoured at the Cipriani Labour College. The program is aimed at preparing persons to function as a para-industrial relations officer, working in tandem with the Ministry of Labour and Small and Micro Enterprise Development to develop its rural extension program. Gregory McBurney has more in this report.
Graduates of the Ministry of Labour and Small and Micro Enterprise Development's Labour Advocate Training Program recently received their certificates. The certificates were awarded at a graduation ceremony held at the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. The three-day training course examined some of the core areas of international labor standards and labor relations, such as child labor, discrimination in the workplace, and good industrial relations practice. Also covered in the course were topics such as minimum wage, maternity benefits, and employers' responsibility. Speaking to the graduates, Labour Minister, the Honourable Errol McLeod, explained his ministry's decision to create the training program.
Over the past 2.5 years, the Labour Inspectorate Unit of the Ministry of Labour and Small and Micro Enterprise Development has been engaged in outreach programs in partnership with the Ministry of Community Development and community groups. An analysis of the outreach program discovered that there remains dire need for information on the services provided by the Labour Inspectorate Unit and the Ministry in general.
Minister McLeod went on to explain the role of the graduates in their communities.
They will have the competence to provide basic information on the rights and responsibilities of workers and employers too, and guide persons with needs to the relevant agency, department, or unit within the ministry.
The minister also underlined to the graduates the importance of their role.
Within your community, it is imperative that you be concerned about all workers, whether they are engaged in formal or informal labor. As advocates, it is your duty to be concerned with all categories of workers, whether wage workers, self-employed entrepreneurs, or domestic employees. You must also bear in mind that everyone who works has rights. I've made that point already, whether unionized or not, and wherever work might occur, whether at home, in the community, or in the voluntary sector. As much as your fellow workers have a responsibility to know their rights, it is now your responsibility as well to ensure that they are continuously informed about their rights.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Orphan children in Trinidad and Tobago are being given the opportunity to become world-class musicians as the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism has partnered with musical icon Dr. Roy Cape to re-establish the St. Dominic's Home Band. Dr. Cape, along with ministry officials, visited the home. Gregory McBurney has more.
Children at the St. Dominic's Home in Belmont were given a treat yesterday when renowned musician Dr. Roy Cape returned to the orphanage where he spent 4 years of his life from 1954 to 1958. Dr. Cape, along with the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism, is seeking to revive the orphanage's band and teach the children to read and write music. Speaking at the orphanage, Deward Phillip, Special Advisor to the Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Winston Gypsy Peters, expressed the government's commitment to providing opportunities for musical development for the youth.
The Minister has made a commitment early on to using the institutions for youth to develop skills and a way forward, particularly for young people who all they needed would just be the opportunities. We've started some discussions with the Youth Training Center to develop mass skills, just as today we're talking about musical skills.
Dr. Cape also took some time while speaking to reporters to commend the government's ability to marry culture and youth.
Well, I think it's one of the way to go. Culture is very strong, and as we conscious in Trinidad, there may be reasons for it, but we have a lot of people going astray, and we have to find means and ways of trying to bring them back to a normal self then. And it first starts with the governments, the type of social programs, anything that is done with the youths in mind to take them from idleness we have to say it's a good try then.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
After the break, stay with us.
I'm Natasha, and like most Trinbagonians, I love the beach. The beach can be fun, but we have to be tsunami smart and know the warning signs. You're at the beach and you feel the earth shake. Run. You see the water moving an unusual distance out from the shore. Run. You hear a strange roar from the sea. Run. If you experience any of these warning signs, run to higher ground. Be tsunami smart and know the natural warning signs. They could save your life.
A message from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, United States Agency for International Development, Caribbean Disaster and Emergency Management Agency, UWI Seismic Research Center, and the European Union.
Welcome back. Major improvements to the on-the-job training program as plans are on the way to boost the intake of OJT trainees. This from Science, Technology and Tertiary Education Minister, Senator the Honorable Fazal Karam, who spoke at the opening of the OJT sub-regional office in Tobago.
What we're going to do is we're going to step up the intake of OJT trainees, so that if you are in year one of a degree program or a diploma program or a certificate program, that immediately after you have finished year one, for the vacation period, whether it's 2 months or 3 months, you can access the OJT program and we can place you on the OJT program. What that will mean, it will mean more relevance in terms of what you would have learned. You can now practice in your workplace, side by side with giving you a stipend that can assist you in terms of your various needs and prepare you for the next academic year. That's our first time, and we're going to implement that immediately.
Minister Karam speaking at the official opening of the OJT office in Tobago East. He's also revealing that hundreds of trainees are being accepted by many private and public organizations throughout the country, and much more trainees are expected to be enrolled in the near future.
We have to date approximately 31 private organizations and 48 roughly public institutions that accept or have accepted over 260 plus trainees in the OJT program. We expect that through these facilities we'll have a larger number of persons who will access the training program.
The Tertiary Education Minister says the OJT offices provide numerous services to the public. He says persons can access information and receive assistance in preparing for employment.
You will be asked to submit a resume or a CV. These offices will also assist you in preparing that resume and CV. Many people don't know where to start, what to say about themselves, or sometimes they might say things that might work against you in your CV. You know that happens, you know. Sometimes you work in a certain place or an organization, and depending upon who is interviewing you, it may work against you. So you may need to be properly advised. Must be places where you can apply to be assessed through your workforce assessment center. And this is going to be, you have a workforce assessment center right here. And that is people who have skills and competencies but do not have certification or credentials.
These initiatives, he says, will assist greatly in reducing the unemployment rate in this country.
If you have people who have graduated, many of our graduate students who are applying for jobs and they're not even getting sometimes even an acknowledgement of the application, that really puts them in a sense of distress. And we want to make sure that these OJT offices will be following up on your behalf to access the jobs which are necessary and required. I do not want you to think for one moment that these offices or this office we're opening in Tobago is only meant for the OJT program in Tobago. This is for the OJT program in Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore you can access any job anywhere in Tobago and in Trinidad.
Vina Barth, News 4.
The National Super League is the second highest level of club football in Trinidad and Tobago, with competing teams coming from all corners of the nation. Recently, the league hosted its awards presentation ceremony for the 2011 season, and prowling away with the lion's share of the prizes were the Eastern Lions. Wayne Cunningham has the details.
Jaffa Restaurant at the Queen's Park Oval was the venue for the National Super League's 2011 awards presentation ceremony. National Youth League also comes under the purview of the Super League, and the youths from Tobago were up first on the evening. With the Sinclair Coaching School taking the under-13 division, Stokely Vale FC the under-15s, and 1976 FC Phoenix the under-17s. In Trinidad, the youth competition was dominated by teams from the east, with Tunapuna Titans taking the under-13 division, their captain, Darrell Bullen, receiving the trophy. His teammate, Warren Chase, was adjudged most promising player. FC Santa Rosa took the top prize in the under-15s, and their midfielder, Kyle Jagasar, was the most promising. Amongst the under-17s, FC Santa Rosa was again in the spotlight, taking that title as well, and their Andre Rampasad winning the Outstanding Player Award. The seniors were up next, and the East again dominated. The winners of the Christmas Cup were up first, with the Eastern Lions, Joe Public FC, taking the $20,000 prize and trophy. In the knockout competition, Tobago sensation Stokely Vale were the runners-up, and they walked away with $30,000 and silver medals. The champions of the knockout were once again Joe Public. They won $50,000 and the B-Mobile trophy. The 5 players of the year received $1,000 each, and they were Tyrone Manning of Stokely Vale, Brent Antwine and Javon Bourne of Joe Public, Darren Mitchell of 1976 FC Phoenix, and Fabian Garcia of Wassa FC, with the diminutive goalkeeper from Joe Public FC, Javon Bourne, cupping the MVP award. Trinidad and Tobago Football Federation President Lennox Watson presenting his $2,000 prize. In the prestigious league competition, it was Wassa FC placing third for $50,000. $80,000 went to Tobago's Stokely Vale, who came in second. And making a clean sweep of the titles were the Eastern Lions of Joe Public FC, with Coach Dale Saunders taking the league trophy and $150,000. League competition for the 2012 season in the youth and senior divisions continued this weekend at venues nationwide. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sport.
When we come back, fulfilling the promise.
You will see how we have been retasked with a newly equipped CSI division and data systems that not only put crime fighting logistics at our fingertips, but those of CSI units throughout the world. And you will see how our police service has been reborn with a new sense of pride, a new sense of duty, and a new sense of community service that demonstrates that protect and serve means we are really here to protect and serve you, and to do it with pride. Each of us has chosen to serve, to do public service, to be here for you in some of life's most terrifying and saddest moments, to listen, to help, to be there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our hearts and minds will never close.
In our special feature, Fulfilling the Promise, we highlight the initiatives and achievements of the government over its 2 years in office. At News 4, we have joined in that effort, and each day in our news package, we feature one of those highlights from the long and impressive list of milestones over these 24 months. In this story, we look at Making Life Important, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security.
The formal launch of the MLI Making Life Important initiative of the Ministry of National Security. It's a model for the sustainable community development and crime prevention. The program offers hope for the future. The strategic goal of this program is to improve the quality of life in crime-prone communities. The Ministry of National Security expects this will enhance the availability and delivery of social services while increasing and improving the quality and the quantity of police-community interaction. The end result will be safe, healthy and productive communities.
A very pleasant morning to all. I'm indeed pleased and honored to be here with you this morning to launch this new initiative. The new MLI initiative is a concrete step and an enormous stride forward in our efforts at creating crime-free, forward-thinking, and sustainable communities across Trinidad and Tobago. It is aptly described as a model for sustainable development and crime prevention, an eclectic concept that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. When we speak of development, we are not only talking about infrastructural works in communities. We also mean true and real development, that is, the development of the human being. In other words, we seek to give our communities and the people who live in them the ability to reach their full potential for success and thus contribute positively to Trinidad and Tobago as a whole.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.